Hi everybody, it's Diane with SewBatik, and today we're going to have some fun doing a pattern review for a little girl's or boy's jacket. And the pattern company is Children's Corner Patterns, and this pattern is called Tate. And they have this available for sizes 0 to 6 and from 7 to 14. The pattern that I selected is from 7 to 14 because I made this jacket for a sweet little girl who we're going to see at Thanksgiving, and hopefully, cross your fingers, it fits. But I really had a blast making this jacket, and I have one more that I want to make, but it was really, really neat. So let's talk about this pattern and how I went about this and anything that you sort of need to think about if you decide that you'd like to make a little girl's jacket called Tate. This pattern, as I said, is for a size 7 to a 14. And I used our jersey knit as the outside fabric, and it is lined, and our Batik Rayon for the lining. Their suggestions for the garment, and take this into consideration when you're thinking about the construction of the jacket itself, is a heavier weight, medium to heavier weight, twill, corduroy, wool, typical cool weather fabrics. And then the lining that they suggest is a light to medium weight fabric, such as lawn, broadcloth, or flannel. So I went kind of in a different route, because I wanted to showcase our fabrics and how they can be used in a simple girl's jacket. So let's talk a little bit about the fabric, and we'll talk about all the other things that I used in the construction, and then some tips and techniques. So I started by wanting to really showcase our jersey knit, and this is the Violetta Sachet Pink. And again, our jersey is 72 inches wide. This jacket, believe it or not, took about 1.25 yards of fabric for the jacket outside. Then I, Miss Conservative, coordinated my lining to be our Rayon Violetta Sachet Pink as well. And so kind of in hindsight, I should have grabbed the hand-dyed coordinate in a rayon, or a brighter pink, or a gray, or something that really offset the lining. And I did not do that. So when you look inside later on, I'll open this up so that you can see it. You can't even tell where the lining starts and stops. So if you're worried about your sewing skills or stitches or anything, go with something very similar, because you can't even tell what the lining is. But if you're really secure in what you want to do and really want to make a flashy garment, definitely think of something that is a little bit more contrasting. And I will do that for the next one, I can tell you that. But I love how this turned out. I just think it's so cute. You will need, of course, your favorite thread that coordinates. And I used our Madeira thread in a coordinating color. This happens to be color 8656. And I don't remember the exact name of it, but it's more of a coral than it is a pink. So you can either work with kind of a pinky color or coral, and it'll match nicely. We also offer the color, it's 9150, and I think this is a soft pink as well that would work beautifully with this color fabric. And since I'm working with 2 different base cloths, one is the jersey knit and one is the rayon, I am working with polyester. I used jersey knit needles because I felt it was much more important to simply use the outer garment needle requirement, which is a ballpoint needle. And so this is a jersey knit needle, and the size is 80-12. That happens to be my favorite for sewing with any of our fabrics as well. You will need buttons, 6 buttons, and you'll need a little bit of interfacing. I put our Envy Silk in the collar. It does call for interfacing in the collar. And I will tell you that since I did use jersey knit, which is a lighter weight fabric than what the pattern designers suggested. In hindsight, I would have put interfacing down the double front of this jacket, both the outer and the inner layer, to make sure that it is a little bit more heavily constructed. And I think that's why the designers wanted it to be more of a cool weather fabric, like a wool, is to be heavier, to give it a little bit more structure. So I would recommend a little bit more interfacing down the front of this jacket. And in our fashion duo, we're going to include enough for that in case that is something that you would like to do as well. So with that said, the pattern itself is from 7 to 14, and it gives you all of the finished garment measurements and the size ranges. I made a size 8. And this pack is very full because every single size that's included has individual pattern pieces for the sizes. I did not take the time to use my Swedish tracing paper to trace the pattern because it's a one size, and I just cut them out and used them the way that they were designed. And the one thing about this particular pattern is there's 2 different views. I chose the view for a little girl, which is gathered skirt. The second view that's included in the pattern is just a simple straight jacket, which also can be a girl. Either one can be a girl or a boy. It's just that I really love the look of the ruffle on the skirt portion of the jacket. The pattern pieces themselves. Okay, the front and the back. They're designed very well because if you're going to put the skirt on it, you only use this portion of the pattern. Otherwise, it goes all the way to the hem of the longer jacket. And each pattern piece has markings for the outer fabric and the lining. So pay attention. I made a mistake on that, but pay attention on that to make sure that you are following the instructions on each one of the pieces for where to put the lining, because your lining is smaller than the outer jacket pieces themselves. The sleeve piece, traditional sleeve, again, cut shorter for the lining than the outer jacket. You do need to use your gathering stitches or basting stitches across the top of this. It does gather slightly. So definitely don't skip that step. You will need to do that. And then since I put the skirt on the jacket, you will have your front and back skirt pieces for the outer and the lining. And these are pretty rectangular, so they're straight. So there is a lot of gathering. And I will say that it was not too easy. It took a little bit of time to work the gathers through the jersey knit because it is quite tight. So I ran a basting stitch all the way across from the points that it said to start and to stop. Next time, or my suggestion to you, is to go halfway up to the seam and then take your next gathering row and go to the middle of the back and then through. So cut it up into either 3 or 4 sections and making sure that you keep that intersection tight as well, so that it doesn't look like that's where you stopped. But it just makes it easier to not have to work the thread so far, okay? Because it is a pretty tight gather. The last 2 pieces are the collar, which you have a top and a bottom. And then they have a separate piece for the interfacing as well. That's just a tiny bit smaller to go inside your collar. I have to say that this was the first time in a while that I've completed a garment without using my serger. I constructed this entire piece without it, with just my traditional sewing machine. So I was able to use just one, well, barely any of a cone of thread and the bobbin itself. And I think that was pretty much it. You could have used a serger. I just felt like since it's lined and all of the edges seemed very secure, that it didn't need the extra serging thread use on it to secure it and to finish it up. I used a lot of fray check, as I always do, for the edges of any threads and my buttonholes as well. So that's pretty much it. The pattern is written very well, I have to say. I like the patterns that take you through all of what their definition of the glossary is and the terms that they use in their pattern. And there's an entire side to this pattern that is glossary. So it helps you understand where they're coming from, and just, you know, that you're going to be using a lot of these different techniques in your garment construction. It's got a great layout, and also I would say that it's the simplest pattern written because it's only one page, and it takes you through every step of the construction of both view A and B, and the lining is just the exact same step as the outer jacket. Now let's show you this jacket a little bit, but first of all, the front is just so cute. It has the bodice is just almost looks like a double-breasted jacket, and then the really, really neat skirt itself, and a tapered sleeve, and it's lining. So you didn't have to worry about any of the hem on anything except for the back hem of your garment, and the lining are separate. So everything else is encased inside the lining. And as you can see here, like I said, think about your fabric choices as well, because you really can't even tell where the lining ends and the jacket outside fabric starts, because these are almost an exact match. I really wanted the inside of the garment to be easy to slide on and off, and so that's why I chose the rayon. And the back of the jacket, again, it's just a cute ruffly jacket. And the collar is just precious. Just very, very simple collar. Okay, and the inside, I'm going to give you a couple of things that I did different that were not listed in the pattern, just because I wanted it to be really, really finished. So as you can see, the inside is the lining. If you can tell, and it matches. It fits perfectly inside. Every bit of the construction was accurate. I didn't have to move something anywhere or anything. It's just, they're very, very well written and laid out patterns. The collar itself, what I did, it did not say to do this in the pattern instructions, but I took the extra step to, I don't know if you would call it understitch, because it is really not, but it's keeping the lining, it is understitching, completely flat and flush against the jersey knit on the back collar. I didn't want it to curl up or roll or anything. And so I did do an extra stay stitch, understitch there. And once I was done putting the front of the lining together here, I did take the extra step to top stitch all the way along the top and down the front edges of both sides of the garment, just to stabilize it a little bit. So I did not, as I had mentioned earlier, I did not put the interfacing in the front here. I think that it really, with the jersey knit, calls for something with a little bit more stability to it, much like the collar. So definitely put or take the time, I guess, to put a little bit of interfacing in here to give it that level of stiffness or stability. And it will also help you when you're putting your buttonholes in to have another layer in there, working with your jersey knit and a buttonhole. Okay. But otherwise, I mean, there's nothing more you could say about this jacket. Everything was just so easy to follow, and I hadn't lined anything for so many years. When I was doing consulting work, I was every now and again wanting to make a jacket or do something. And that was probably the last time I lined anything was then. And so since then, it's been a little simpler projects that didn't require anything like that. So, so that is our little Tate jacket. And I hope if you sew for a grandson, granddaughter, or your own children, definitely, this is, it says intermediate. It's got 2 out of 4 thimbles of difficulty. So I think it can be done by anybody, truly. Follow the steps. And I find lining to be easy to insert, and it also makes all of the finished edges encased and beautiful and actually a little simpler. So, oh, and I did use, I forgot to tell you this. So the jersey is 72 inches wide, and I believe I used 1.25 yards for the jacket, or 1 yard. I think it was about 1 yard. And then for the rayon lining was 1.5 yards to get all of the various pieces out of it. So it does take that much yardage for the jacket outer and lining. And I think that's it. So take a look at our fashion duo on our website. We will have various color combinations and options for you to select from, but also there's always that option, which I know a lot of you love, to email us and let us know which jersey knit and which rayon you would like to make your jacket from for your little Tate. And we will put that in your kit for you. We do custom kits all the time. And or just select whatever you would like. The pattern is available on our website individually, as is the NV Silk interfacing and our thread. So we hope you enjoy this, and we'll see what's coming up next time. Take care.